On this episode of the Star Trek Universe podcast, we are talking about Star Trek Discovery 305 Die Trying. Right after these words from sponsors we can't control.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast, the podcast where two lifelong friends do what they've been doing since they were 5, talk about Star Trek. But now you get to listen in. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm here. I'm here.
I know you had a long night. You had a long drive in the middle of the night. That's never fun.
No, it's not.
I do not like those. Well, let's dive right in. I know we're as always, it feels like crunch for time, which is honestly one of my favorite things about this podcast, Dave, is that we just have a reason to catch up every week and talk about something we like.
That is cool. I feel a little excitable because this felt like an episode that you and I would have loved when we were like 13.
Yes, 100%.
Because we got to see so many new cool friggin' future Starfleet ships.
Well, and it's really, yes, absolutely. And it's setting up like a whole, I mean, it really is setting the stage for what is Starfleet in the, what is this, the 31st century?
Something like that, yeah. I don't know.
What is this new era of Star Trek?
32nd century.
Oh, that's right. Okay, they seem to really set it. They talked about the temporal wars, which we've heard about in Enterprise. Like they're really like building out the universe and really basing it on previous knowledge, and like everything feels very grounded. This feels like a Star Trek show in like a way that like and it's really neat to be discovering the Federation as if they're the Dominion. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sure. Can I just say, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know about my issues with aesthetic continuity, but the way that they're kind of building it out, at the very least, I can headcanon it. And I'm wondering if they're actually going to make this what's happening, because the way that Admiral talked about the temporal wars and keeping people from going back and changing the past, it just feels like, yes, the original series happened and looked the way it did in canon, but then because of the temporal wars, something at some point pushed it in a different direction and changed the aesthetic, changed the technological aspects of it. You know what I mean?
It could be. It's funny. Like you started to talk about your problems with that sort of visual canon, and I was like, yeah, I thought you were going to make the point, like, it's just great to be kind of beyond all that. Like, we're out in the future. We don't have to think about that other than the Discovery itself. We don't have to really think about what things looked like back then. The ships can look like whatever they want to look like.
Yeah, that too.
But then instead you were like, they're finally solving my issue. And I was like, cool. I like that too. That maybe they will, maybe they won't. But either way, we don't have to talk about it anymore.
Well, that's just mean.
I don't mean that to impugn your dislike of it. I'm very glad. It goes for all of my story canon problems too. Like all the problems we have with canon that existed 1,000 years ago, we don't have to worry about it, and we can just look at a new place and a new future. It's just like I just said, the Dominion. It feels like going into a new quadrant of space did, because you go into a new quadrant and you're like, what is out here? We have very little information. What's in the Gamma Quadrant?
Yeah, it's what well, I mean, what were they called? Weren't they called the same thing? The temporal wars in Doctor Who.
I think maybe.
When Paul McGann shows back up the whatever 8th Doctor, when in that short he mentions every companion he ever had over the course of all the novels that don't line up in continuity with anything.
That's great.
It's because of the temporal wars, just like they all exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Voyager in the room. What is this Voyager about? I saw some article about it and I didn't have a chance to read it. It said like there's some article like what that Voyager ship means, and it's like I saw it popped up on my phone and I meant to search it out later, but I did not. What does the Voyager mean?
I don't know. Aside from it being a clever / not really so clever.
It's the I'm watching
reference.
it. I'm watching that moment right now. She says it's the Voyager J.
Yeah, the 11th generation, and they're like, "Oh, I'd love to hear those stories." I'm like, you didn't know the first Voyager, jackass. That was like 100 years after you.
Well, I mean, I get what they're saying. They're on the Discovery, which is they haven't even had 11 generations. Like the reason the Enterprise keeps getting a letter is because it's been through so many big epic things that they keep making a new version as a
right.
tribute to the previous version. So the fact that Voyager has a J in front of it means the Voyager continued to be a like epic ship that was so
right.
and so they were calling out Voyager to say like, I'd love to hear those stories. It's a nod to it. I actually had missed the J when I first watched it, so I'm glad I went back here.
What's funny is when they said, "Oh, I'd love to hear those stories," my wife went, "No, please."
no, you wouldn't. No. Many do. Many love the Voyager, and I respect that very much.
I don't know that I respect it, but
no, I do. I respect it. It's respect. Respect just means I respect they have a different opinion than me, and that is fine. But like I'm not a huge Voyager fan, but I just thought it was interesting that they actually had.
Yeah,
that's a really fun call out.
Did you catch the USS Nog?
No. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, and Kurtzman said it was an Eisenberg class.
An Eisenberg. Oh,
yeah.
Aww.
There it is.
That's so good. That's so good. That's like that makes me tear up a little. That's so good, man. Oh gosh, Eisenberg being the actor who played Nog, who recently passed. Just in case anyone doesn't know why we're reacting the way we are to that. Yes, that's awesome.
Now they're also calling a little bit of reference to the Voyager episode Think Tank, because they talked about how some of the 32nd century ships are composed of neutronium alloy, and that was said to be theoretical in Voyager's Think Tank. They said it was beyond the abilities of the Borg.
Interesting. All right. Well, yeah, man. I really, really dug this. I think it's just a fun episode. Like, I really like the new Admiral. I really like this weird guy who's questioning Georgiou. I'm assuming this might be the beginning of the backdoor pilot. Well, I guess beginning. I'm assuming he might be Section 31 or in some way.
That's what I assumed. I don't care for him so far.
Really?
Like, I don't like the actor.
Oh, I loved him.
I don't like how he's playing the character yet.
Interesting. I found him fascinating because he kept delivering lines differently than I thought I would have thought. Like,
yeah, I consider that bad acting.
No, I disagree with that. Like, I actually really consider that good acting, because it puts me on my heels, and it makes me view that actor as sort of like, or that role as sort of a real person. They don't have my same pattern of speech. They don't exactly deliver things. So often in these sci-fi shows, the admiral says things like admirals say things, and the captain says things like captains say things. And I really like people who deliver lines just a little off. And he was just so meek in a way, but still seemed very in control. And I liked that. I liked his delivery and his overall performance a whole lot.
Okay.
I could absolutely see him like being her admiral if they start a Section 31 show or something.
Yeah, I think it's definitely involved in Section 31 in the subsequent series. I do wonder what the hell he did to her, or if she's just really upset. But in the teaser for next week, we see her looks like she's like passing out or some such.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Or if it's even her. This is so distant in the future, man. They could have just put a robot Georgiou in place, and like she could already be off running around,
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if she's one of the holograms. One of those holograms that she blinks at.
She absolutely could be. Yeah, they could have replaced her or whatever. Like it could be all kinds of things. Like this is 1,000 years, and that's one of the things that was so much fun. Like watching this episode, the technology they have, and The Discovery, the only thing they've got going for them is the spore drive, you know?
Well, and the sphere data.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And the power of their crew that works like a single organism. I find that mostly laughable, but,
yes,
because I just feel like they're like, every crew thinks that about themselves or whatever. Like, they're just a crew, you know, and they're cool. I like them all. And I don't know.
I do agree with Michael that it would be really bad to split them up at this point because of their, you know, psychological makeup.
I agree completely. It would be bad for them. I don't necessarily think it would necessarily be bad for the Federation. Maybe on this particular mission, I do think that like working other people into the Discovery and working Discovery members into other situations on this like Federation headquarters and stuff would probably be a wise decision in the long run, you know?
I don't see how at this point because like, with that admiral, I was like, dude, if you're so busy, like, you don't have time to, like, retrain all of these people for, like, 1,000 years worth of technology. Let them stay on their ship, slowly integrate them and show them how to do things, like, in their own time, and let them do their own thing. Like, go send them on missions. They don't have time to get to know new crew members and assimilate all this new information. I mean, maybe they can upload it into their brain or something. I don't know.
Star Trek has a history of people showing up on an alien ship and spending 3 hours learning to use that, learning to read that alien language and like figuring out how to fly that ship. So like, I'd be fine with them figuring out, like, they always walk into a room. They're like, oh, well, this is technology I've never seen, but I can tell that this is a warp defibrillator and this is a whatever. So this must be the da-da-da levers. Like, they do that stuff all the time. So if they needed to make a transition, I don't think that a training would be impossible.
But they also have stuff like in, you know, Relics where Scotty almost blows up the freaking ship because he's like, oh, the dilithium's about to go bad.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever it was, he said.
And in the long run, for them to ever feel like they're at home in this time, they're going to have to integrate a little bit. And we're already seeing that. I mean, with Non leaving and staying on this siege ship, like that's one.
I didn't understand that.
What didn't you understand?
One, why did they have to leave all of those seeds there? Why? Like, it looked like that seed ship was small enough that it could just like go into Discovery's hangar, honestly.
Yeah. No, I think the idea of the seed ship, I think those seeds exist in other places. I don't think that's the only repository. It might be the only one now. I think the idea of the seed ship is that it's separate from any other Federation base and power, so that if some like catastrophic thing happens, a la the burn, there's a ship out there that's protecting the biodiversity of the galaxy. So it's separate for a reason.
I thought they were going to like find, like, I thought one of the reasons they needed not just the one seeds to make the cure, but they also needed all of those different seeds to be like, hey, this is from all the other worlds, and this is a big chunk of our history. And
well, that seed ship still exists, and especially with Discovery, they can teleport there at any point. So it's not gone. They just needed a specific thing this episode. I agree with you. There's not, and maybe there's other seed ships out there too. They just like the one they were looking for because it was in the sector or whatever, or close by, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Not necessarily because the Discovery can go anywhere, but whatever.
And then like Michael, like on the ship, told Non like, oh, this means the end of your career. But then when they're back on the Federation base, the Admiral's like, yes, and she's serving her post there. Like, so she's still in the Federation? She's still in the Starfleet? What?
Well, she also said she wanted to go home. So
yeah,
she the whole thing was she missed her people and missed her family, and
she can't go home if she's on that seed ship.
It only lasts so many years or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what they said. They said they take like, I forget how many years. It was like it's like a 5-year stint on this ship, and that family was doing it. And I want to say they only said it was a number of months that they had left. So they were, and she said, I'm not going to let the bars on, like watch go cold. Like I'm gonna finish this for my people, because we're supposed to, as the Federation, we're supposed to alternate taking shifts on this thing, and the bar's on. We're supposed to do it this time, and I'm not going to let that not happen. So I'm going to stay here and do what I need to do.
Okay.
I mean,
whatever.
It's just another reason to get someone else with complicated makeup off the ship.
Yep. I did think about that.
Me too.
Like even to the point where they're like, your eyes, she's like, real me, real atmosphere, real eyes, or whatever.
Yeah, this is the real me. It was like, you mean the complicated thing they don't want to do with effects and makeup every week. And also it didn't hit me last week when we were watching, or the last 2 weeks we were watching about Adira, but I remember the actress who played Jadzia Dax complaining about getting those dots painted on her every week.
Yep.
And I love that they decided to have a symbiont in this season, but they decided specifically not to make her Trill. And it's like, they really are it's funny because Doug Jones is getting this crazy Saru makeup every week, but it's like they're getting rid of every other makeup person.
I don't know. I saw another Starfleet guy from like afar in part of the Discovery crew who had just like a ridiculous like squid Medusa looking thing he had going on, and I was like, I thought you died.
Yeah, there was one that died a couple episodes ago. He didn't have a squid face. He had like a big alien face though.
It was like a big. I don't know. But
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway,
I was telling Alyssa about that last night. I was just like in bed telling her about how many people they've gotten rid of that had like complicated prosthetics and makeup. And I was just laughing about it. I just couldn't stop because I was just like, they just keep doing it. And it just, to me, it's obvious that's what they're doing.
Worries me for Detmer.
Yeah, for sure. They've already got her. Something's wrong with her.
Yep, something's wrong with her.
They're already laying the groundwork to get rid of her. Saru is just like sucking up all of the makeup budget for this entire show.
He has looked a little nervous though the last few episodes.
He's Kelpian, man.
He's like, you're gonna make me captain so you could kill me, right? That's what you're doing, aren't you? We all know Michael's going to wind up being the captain of this damn ship. Man, I find that hilarious that they keep killing off the crew members with more makeup. I don't think they'll kill them off.
No.
I can't help but wonder if Saru at the end of the season will be like, I'm going to leave the ship in your capable hands, Michael. I want to go home.
Well, yeah, the Kelpians, like, he knows, he left his world because there was no future there, and now his world has been brought into the future, and, like, has been freed and joined the Federation, and he's so excited about it. There's definitely a flash on his face in this episode where you're like, oh, yeah, he definitely wants to go to Kaminar. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the overall. I guess the plot of this episode was, I don't know, like the plot.
We pretty much hit it.
I guess the plot was the thing with the seeds, but it was very, and then the guy with his family. I mean, we didn't really mention yet this whole like ghost guy going around the ship out of phase. It was all neat. I don't know. That's the thing. That's, I guess, what I'm getting at. It's just, it feels very Star Trek. It feels very Doctor Who. It feels very like just sci-fi episode of a thing. But and I like that. I like that Discovery is landing in this place where they have a little arc, they have a little story. It brings to resolution characters like decisions and arcs, but the real story is still this overarching tale they're telling.
Yeah, what's this melody, man?
Ooh, yeah, dude, that's so Doctor Who. This whole season's reminding me a little more of Doctor Who than Star Trek, honestly.
That shit was Bad Wolf all the way around.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that melody. It just fits my taste perfectly, and it's like real spooky, but I'm hoping they do something that makes good logical sense, and it's not some like I like the Doctor Who feel of that, but I don't want a Doctor Who answer to that. You know what I mean?
I do want more of an explanation.
I like when Star Trek can at least pretend to be hard sci-fi. Like I like it to have its fantasy elements and its fantastical, like exciting moments that feel very alien and interesting and fantasy almost, but they still are all based in science. I mean, and DS9 did this perfectly. And so I really want that out of this melody.
Yeah, I'm my favorite Star Trek is space opera masquerading as hard science fiction. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Well, yeah, I loved it. I like where we're going. I loved the new Admiral too. Have I mentioned how much I like the new Admiral? You
did, and I thought he was a dick and didn't like him for the first 75% of the episode.
Interesting.
Because I was just like, man, every time we get a new Admiral, they always want to refit the ship. They always want to take everybody, every time they go to Starfleet headquarters, it's time to get rid of the ship, get rid of the crew, put them in weird places.
Sure. But in this particular case, this feels very much like he has a good reason. They just got done with the temporal wars, and that's what they're so worried about. These guys came from 1,000 years ago, so they think they might be temporal agents. So that's already suspicious. And then the ship they've never heard of, or that supposedly exploded, a spore drive they've never heard of. They come offering. It sounds very Trojan horse, And and they've got enemies that are out there trying to the Orions and the Andorians are out there trying to destroy the Federation, it seems like. So they have reason to be suspicious. So I agree with you that every time we go to Starfleet headquarters, there's always some admiral that wants to, but by the end of this episode they had already completed a mission for him and convinced him at least in some small way that they were part of the Federation and he should trust them.
I spent a fair amount of the episode just kind of somewhat worried that he was going to actually turn out to be a villain, not just the episode's antagonist. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I was when they walk into the they fly into the Federation outpost, and you see all these beautiful things, and they're going oh my gosh, that's a floating rainforest, Voyager J, all this stuff, all this amazing stuff, all the ships are working together to produce this field. This is so cool. I turned to Alyssa and I was like, all right, now where's the dark turn? The dark, suspicious turn. And I was happy to see we did not get that, at least yet.
Yeah.
I think the Federation will have lost some of its values, but I don't think that they're going to be just villainous, which I'm excited about.
It reminded me, I got feelings of, remember that Voyager episode where they find the Prometheus, Starfleet sent you a ship to get you home, and it's the Prometheus, and then it turns out this wasn't sent by Starfleet, it's a trap.
It's a trap.
Which I knew that was bullshit back then. It was they're not going to change the name of the show to Prometheus.
Right. Sure. Well, it could have been, some other thing.
They changed the name of the ship to Voyager. Voyager A.
Oh, for sure. Any other major things about this episode? I was really surprised they lost Nan.
I was sad that they lost Nan. I'm hoping something brings her back because I liked the character.
Me too.
I liked the actress. Whatever.
I feel like we didn't get enough of her and really didn't get to know her well enough.
When she was being interrogated, she just kept saying her name and her serial number. I was like, what can be gained? What can be gained?
Oh man, Culber again is the wise sage this episode. Is that something I'm just not remembering from the first two seasons, or is that a new trait of Culber that he's now the wisest man on the ship?
I think he was pretty wise before. It was just that he was mostly just being wise to Stamets.
Yeah, that's true. He's always good to Stamets.
The first season they were in the middle of a war, and he did say that he was not the CMO back then. He might be now. We don't know. But he did say he had to assist the CMO with something.
Yeah.
But, freaking Lorca wasn't going to listen to Culber.
Yeah, no, I just mean he keeps going on these long sort of
Yeah.
very insightful soliloquies about what each crew member should do to each crew member. You know, it just feels a little more like like they're really driving that home. Like he's the new Guinan or whatever.
Well, I think he's gained a little insight since he died as well.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
They seem to have that going on with him. But it seemed like he had that quality to him. Just he was only interacting with Stamets for the most part,
and also he was in
originally
some pretty tense situations, like dying or being trapped in a monster, being the monster of some mycelial world.
Or they watched some of his previous stuff and they said, "Oh, well, yeah, let's play into that because he's really good at being like the wise guy, the sage."
That's what I'm getting at. I'm not saying that this is out of character. I'm saying the show seems to be saying like, this is who we want him to like really be now. They seem like they've made a decision about who that actor is and what he can pull off and what he does well. And I agree with it. I think it's been really good. It just kind of feels like it's all out of nowhere for me, but I like it. I don't have any problem with it.
I really like him. I feel like he pulls off a couple of different things really well. He pulls off, I haven't seen this since like possibly DeForest Kelley himself. Like, I feel like, you know, Beverly Crusher was the very, like, nurturing doctor. And Bashir was, like, the kind of a jerk, but he had that loving side to him. But I haven't seen quite that, like, I have all the wisdom. I'm your bartender. I'm your friend. I'm the guy that has the answers. And, like, I really haven't seen that since McCoy in the original series, to me. Like, but he can also be super cranky and a complete jerk. Like with how annoyed he is with the crew.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think he's doing that very well. He's like, he's this like, you know, this wisdom mixed with crank, which I do enjoy that like sweet combination. Cool. Well, I asked you, then I jumped into something. Anything else you want to talk about this episode?
I don't think so. This was a relatively straightforward episode, and I liked it for that. And I'll say this: I really liked seeing Saru assert his authority over Burnham.
Yeah, me too.
Because she clearly stepped out of line a few times. Like, this is not the Burnham that we knew previously. She's always had some of these character traits where she, like, steps out of line and does the wrong thing.
Yeah. But
I feel like they are really playing with this idea that she's been out of Starfleet for, like, over a year, or, you know, and she is not quite... It's like she remembers the steps, but she can't keep the rhythm.
Yeah, that's the question I have. Like, what are they doing with her? And do you think Discovery is a show about Burnham? I mean, especially this season. This is more the arc of this season. She's been really like, she spent a year out there learning to be a courier and like doing what she had to do. And she got very outside of the Starfleet ethos. My question is this a show where she's doing that? Or is this a show that is about the disgraced first officer in the first season who started the Klingon War, who is like on a slow arc of learning about herself and her own boundaries and what it means to be a captain that will eventually become the captain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can absolutely see that as like the show sort of pulls her character in these different directions. I could see that it's like leading to her being a very wise and like balanced person that she hasn't been able to figure out even now. I'm digging that. I'm digging the idea of just having a show that's like about a really good first officer, you know? Or a really interesting first officer that becomes a good first officer that maybe becomes captain.
Yeah.
I just don't know when that'd happen. I wondered if like Saru actually be kind of fascinating next season if like Saru does decide to leave and then they just give them some captain from the 31st second century. Like I could see this admiral, for instance, being like, well, this ship is now the most one of the most powerful ships in the fleet. We're going to retrofit you. We're going to give you some better technology so that you have better weapons and better, whatever else we have, transporters and things. But because of that, I'm going to become the Commodore who runs this ship. And then they've all kind of got to learn to fit into a system again, which could be interesting.
I enjoy the references they do on the show, but I feel like they are a little bit heavy-handed sometimes. Like, I loved seeing the USS Nog. I also felt like it was a little heavy-handed. Like, we've got a Voyager and a Nog, a DS9 and a Voyager in the same place. Okay, we did this in Picard too, but okay.
I didn't see Nog. So yeah. I don't think that one to me did not seem heavy-handed because it wasn't like did you actually see that when you were watching it, or did you see that in screenshots later?
I saw in screenshots later.
See, I think that's the case with that one because I didn't even the Voyager. They literally put a light on it and flew directly over the name of the ship and talked about it. That's heavy-handed. The Nog Eisenberg ship, that's really tasteful and fun.
At the same time, though, the Nog, you could see it on screen if you had good eyesight, which I don't.
I think a lot of that's going to take a lot of pausing and looking. And I love a good Easter egg that doesn't disrupt the flow of things, I guess.
Yeah, this is where I'm going with it, though. I wouldn't be surprised if they did reassign or assign a new captain to the Discovery, and it was for an episode or two, and he was the descendant of Jellicoe. My family's been in Starfleet for hundreds of years,
and we all for the rest of time start to argue whether Captain Jellicoe was good on Discovery or not.
Do you think they'll update their uniforms?
I actually thought a lot about that. I kind of doubt it for a little while. I think this season they'll keep their uniforms, but I don't know. I think it kind of depends on what they end up doing. Is this new 32nd century version of them? Is this the new them? Is this the new home? Or are they going to end up jumping to a different time after they solve the burn,
I suspect that because we have to get rid of the original Discovery, we won't see new uniforms properly until next season when they have Discovery A, because they've now made sure that we know, Voyager gets a J. Enterprise got several, legacy ships afterward. Discovery is deserving of that too. It's not deserving of having been erased from history. It saved mankind. It fixed the burn because we know where they're going to.
Oh, you think they're going to go back in time and fix the burn?
I don't know that they're going to go back in time and fix it. I think they will fix it in some way.
You mean I feel like they've either they can solve it, which means they realized what happened. If
for no other, I think we'll wind up having a whole fleet of spore drives. Honestly, is what I think. Well,
we know at the beginning. I was thinking about that too. The beginning of the season, they were having conversations about how to get a better interface for the spore drive than Stamets, because he can't be the only one. And I have a feeling that they're going to get to a place where they have to make a decision about, if we create an interface, anyone can fly this ship, which means the Federation has spore drives now, but they're going to have some misgivings about who the Federation is, and do we want to give them? Are we going to find out 3 episodes from now that they're partially responsible for some of this warring? We felt pretty weird about Daniels from the future in the 29th century.
We did.
I'm interested to see what if we find out. So the burn happened. What if it is somehow related to the temporal wars? It was the one last master stroke that some party did to stop the to cause the burn, to cause the temporal wars to be over. And the thing that I bet that could be interesting is if the Federation actually did it to themselves to somehow stop the temporal wars, but similar to what we see with Doctor Who and Gallifrey, locking it in time so that the wars are over, just going ahead and deciding to kill both sides, basically.
And I can't help but remember that guy on the planet from a few episodes ago. He name dropped the Vidraish, the syncope of Federation. So who's the Vidraish?
Yeah, are they a different sect, or is that what they call these? Well, he called the Vidreyish. He called the Federation, isn't it? Like, I think he sees her badge. He calls it her Vidreyish, doesn't he?
He referred to the Vidreyish. I can't remember why he did, though. I
think it's in relation to when she's talking about where is the Federation. Like, she's trying to find out where her people are, and I think he calls them the Vidreyish.
So I mean,
have to go back and rewatch.
Yeah, if we go to Calypso, like, what is the Federation? Like, they could really still turn out to be villains.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, could be the long game. You know, this could be that villain turn may come later, even though we kind of expected it might happen this episode. Maybe it'll just happen later. Oh man. I'm excited. There's just so much.
Yeah, I'm down, man. This is cool.
Like, maybe Section 31 caused the burn for some reason, you know, and maybe maybe this Admiral knows everything about it, you know.
Yeah.
Next episode looks really interesting. The on next time on it seems like it's going to get a lot. We're going to be visiting Book again and having him, like, they're on some mission for some courier type business, which just so much fun that they have all this stuff going on. We're so new to this century, I guess, and like to have so many different kinds of stories to already be able to tell is real fun.
Yeah, I'm down. I have to admit, I was a little bit like, I want more Federation stuff. I don't quite want to go, back to Book yet, but
I think this will inform what's going on with the Federation. Like, it sounds like she's making a decision to go help Book, maybe against the Federation's orders based on the trailer.
Maybe
that could just put a wrinkle in that whole thing. So being that
I'm down,
impetuous Burnham.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys. Well, we are the Star Trek Universe Podcast. Check us out at strandedpanda.com and all the other shows we do and such. We'll be back next week with more Star Trek.
By the way, I know some people left us feedback. We just don't have time to get into it this week, but we'll get into it later.
All right. Well, we'll get to your feedback next week. I'm sorry, it's my fault. We're a bit of a rush. Gotta go to a gig. Gotta go sing some songs.
Ow.
You all right?
Mm-hmm. I'm good.
All right. Jolan True.
Cake is eternal.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.